I'm 40 now, and there's something I wish I had known when I was your age. I wish someone had grabbed me by the shoulders and told me, hey, the choices you're making right now, they are shaping your entire future, whether you realize it or not. I wish someone had explained to me that time isn't actually on your side if you're wasting it. I wish I had understood that most of the problems I face later in life weren't because of bad luck or circumstances, but because of me, my habits, my mindset, my choices. So let me save you some time. Let me tell you the things I got wrong, what made me wake up, and how I changed. I hope this helps you in even the tiniest way possible. When I was in my 20s, I treated my body like it was indestructible. I slept whenever I felt like it, usually after binge watching rubbish until 3 a.m. I thought caffeine was a substitute for sleep, so I drank ridiculous amounts of coffee just to keep myself functioning. Some days I skipped meals entirely, and on others I ate absolute junk. Cheap takeaways, frozen pizzas, energy drinks. I lived on convenience. And exercise, that was something I'd get around to eventually, but never actually did. At first, I thought I was fine. I wasn't overweight, I didn't feel sick, but what I didn't realize was that these habits were slowly wrecking me from the inside out. I started feeling tired all the time, even after sleeping for 10 hours. My skin looked dull, I had constant headaches, and my mood swings were out of control. My concentration was awful. I could barely focus on a book for 10 minutes without my brain checking out. Worst of all, I felt flat. No energy, no motivation, just existing. One day I hit a wall, literally. I fainted at work. Just collapsed in the middle of the office because my body had had enough. It was a wake-up call I couldn't ignore. I went to the doctor thinking something was seriously wrong, but guess what he told me? He said my body was simply exhausted. I had been running on fumes for years. I'd been feeding myself garbage, depriving myself of rest, and completely neglecting the basics of health. I had to change. The first thing I did was fix my sleep. I committed to a bedtime no matter what. No more scrolling my phone until my eyes hurt. I started dimming the lights an hour before bed and reading instead of staring at screens. And at first it was weird, but within weeks I started waking up without feeling like I got hit by a bus. My energy started coming back. Then I tackled food. Instead of dieting, I made a simple rule: eat real food. If it came in a packet with 25 ingredients I couldn't pronounce, I didn't buy it. I swapped my sugary cereals for eggs and avocado in the morning, and instead of energy drinks, I drank water. For snacks, I went for nuts, fruit, or dark chocolate. And after a few weeks of eating real food, I noticed something crazy. My brain actually felt clearer. My mood was more stable, and I wasn't crashing at 2 p.m. like I used to. It was like my body was finally working with me instead of against me. Exercise was next. I didn't start with insane gym sessions because I knew I wouldn't stick with it. I started small. I walked for 30 minutes every single day, rain or shine, no excuses. That alone made a huge difference on my mood. Then, twice a week, I did basic strength training. Push-ups, squats, stuff I could do at home. I wasn't aiming for a six-pack, to be honest. I was aiming to build a body that wouldn't fall apart on me in a decade's time. The biggest lesson I learned is that your body will keep score of how you treat it. Maybe not today, maybe not next year, but eventually your choices will catch up to you. Now, let's talk about habits. In my 20s, I had terrible habits. I procrastinated everything. I was one of those people who said, I work better under pressure, which really meant I wait until the last minute and then panic. My mornings were a disaster. I'd wake up, immediately check my phone, scroll mindlessly for an hour, and then rush around because I was always late. The problem with bad habits is that they create more bad habits. Because I wasted my mornings, I was constantly behind. Because I was constantly behind, I was always stressed. And because I was always stressed, I made poor decisions. It was a cycle I just couldn't escape. What forced me to change was a conversation with a family friend who was a bit of a mentor to me. He told me, your future is being built by what you do every day. Not what you do once in a while, every day. That hit me like a ton of bricks. So I rebuilt my days from scratch. Instead of waking up and scrolling my phone, I gave myself a new rule: no phone for the first hour of the day. Instead, I made a simple list of 3 things I needed to do. Not 10, not a whole to-do list, just 3 important things. Then I dealt with the hardest one first. It was uncomfortable at first, but after a few months, it takes time, my productivity skyrocketed. I stopped feeling constantly behind, and my brain stopped feeling like it was on fire all the time. I also made a rule: if something takes less than 2 minutes, do it right now. Washing a dish, responding to an email, tidying up, it stopped little things from piling up into overwhelming problems. Now let's talk about money. I wasted so much money in my 20s, it physically pains me to think about it. I spent money like it would never run out. I did not budget, I did not save. I lived paycheck to paycheck even when I didn't have to. I convinced myself that I'll start saving when I earn more. But when I did start earning more, I just spent more. The moment that forced me to change was when my car broke down and I didn't even have $500 to fix it. I was making decent money, but I was broke. That was the slap in the face I needed. So I forced myself to learn. I started tracking every penny I spent. At first, it was horrifying. I realized I was spending hundreds on things I didn't even remember buying. Once I saw where my money was actually going, I cut the nonsense. I started saving before spending. Even when I had debts, I put 10% of every paycheck into savings, no matter what. And I finally started investing. I used to think investing was complicated, but all I had to do was start small, just $50 a month into index funds, and that alone made me feel so much more in control. And then there's relationships. I used to keep toxic people in my life just because they'd been around forever. I had friendships that drained me, relationships that were not going anywhere, and I ignored red flags because I didn't want to be alone. But one day, when I was around 36 years old, I realized if you surround yourself with people who make excuses, complain, and settle, you become one of them. So I made a rule. I only keep people in my life who add value. That doesn't mean they have to be successful or perfect, but they do have to be growing. If someone constantly drains me, I distance myself. Life is way too short to spend with people who make you feel worse. Another thing I've learned is the importance of taking responsibility for your life. In my 20s, I feel like I spent a lot of time blaming other people or situations for my problems. I'd complain about my job, my circumstances, or how things weren't going the way I wanted. But the truth is, I was the one holding myself back, no one else. Taking responsibility means recognizing that you have the power to change your life. If something isn't working, it's up to you to fix it. It's easy to point fingers, but the moment you realize that everything in your life, good or bad, is the result of your choices, you'll start to see things differently. You'll start to take ownership of your decisions, and that's when the real change happens. For me, taking responsibility meant getting serious about my career. I stopped waiting for the perfect job to come along, and I started taking the steps I needed to in order to create the career I wanted. I invested in myself by learning new skills, networking with people in my field, and taking on projects that challenged me. I stopped blaming the system or my circumstances and started focusing on what I could do to improve my situation. If you're in your 20s, take ownership of your life now. Stop waiting for things to happen and start making them happen. It's easy to get stuck in the poor me mindset, but that's not going to get you anywhere. You're the one in the driver's seat. And listen, it's fine if you don't have it all figured out right now. In fact, most people don't. But the key is being patient and learning to prioritize the things that truly matter. Whether that's time with family, pursuing a passion, or learning a new skill, make sure the mountain you're climbing is one you actually want to climb. That is going to make all the difference in the long run. Have you already had to learn these lessons the hard way? Are there any lessons of your own that you want to share? Let me know in the comments. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this.